Yep. Clemson almost lost to Troy. Yep. It almost happened. They survive the Fighting Troy football team. I'm forgetting their mascot right now, but I should remember it because they were dominating Clemson. But Clemson gets out of this game, and this is the reaction. Hey, if you love Clemson football and maybe you had to sit out in the rain, sit in the rain delay like I did today. That's the reason I'm getting on here late. I was at the game with my nephew. Um, yeah, if you love Clemson that much, this is the channel for you. I hope you'll subscribe, and it is free, and you can pass it along to anyone who loves Clemson football. Also, real quick, I have another channel where I talk about college football as a whole. I said South Florida could beat Florida, and they did. I also said that Mississippi State could beat Arizona State. They did, and that's on the other channel. Check out that link below. Another college football podcast. Go over there and subscribe and pass it around. All right. So my nephew turns 13 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Kason. He wanted to go to the game today, and he wanted to go with me. And so that made my ego feel good because, well, when your nephew wants to hang out with you, that's a good thing. Excuse me. So we did the whole festivities, went downtown, went to TD's, got something to eat beforehand, got into the stadium, and then the game kicked off. I'm going to tell you this. Clemson wins a ball game. You know it. I know it. But I want to tell you, I cannot put into words how uninspired Clemson's football team, their entire sideline, coaches and all, looked. I was right at their sideline. I couldn't just see it. I was right at it. They looked they didn't even look miserable. They just looked like they'd rather be somewhere else. A lot of Clemson's football players look like they'd rather be over at the Anderson Jockey Lot, the flea market, than they would be suited up in Death Valley. Now, if you've ever been to Clemson football stadium, if you've ever been to the stadium, you know that Death Valley is a really cool place. And with everything that the university has done over the years to make that place more intimidating, make it more high tech, to make it more visually appealing, it's a really cool place. And folks, I want to tell you this. That football team, literally, I can't put it in. If you were there, maybe you noticed it too. They look like they could care less to be there. And then the play calling. Y'all know I'm a big Tom Allen fan. Tom Allen's defense looked bad in the first half. It really, really did. Roger Parks sent me an email, and he was like, "Hey, listen, they're getting pushed around. And last week they got pushed around. This week they're getting pushed around by Troy, And you're right. And my nephew and I, if you've been to a Clemson game, you know that you want to try to go to the restroom probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes before halftime, before everybody piles up there. So if you need to use a restroom, that's probably the time to do it, 15, 20 minutes before. And so I was like, hey, I need to use a restroom. And he's like, yeah, I do too. So we'll go ahead and head on up. That was in my head. I was like, we will miss all that crazy trying to use a restroom during halftime, which is just ridiculous. We're walking up the steps, and Clemson had just took over the football. And I hear this commotion, and I start to hear people moaning and groaning, and I turn around, and that's when the whole, I believe it was an interception for a touchdown, happened in the end zone there at the hill. And it was just weird. I mean, everything was weird. Obviously, there was a delay. There was a delay because of lightning and really, intense storm that came through. So it was just whacked out. It was just it was whacked out before the delay, it was whacked out after delay, it was at halftime, it was whacked out. There was and I've been in that stadium so many times over the years. I've seen them play some really, really good football teams, some who's who's. I've been there for some really good moments, okay? This was one of the most underwhelming, least inspiring football moments for Clemson I have ever seen, and I've been there when Clemson was bad. I remember, I think it was 1996. I think it was 1996. Clemson played Billy Napier and Furman. Billy Napier was a quarterback at Furman. And I'm pretty sure it was at that time. Napier was a quarterback. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. In 1995, Clemson went 8-3, and they went to the Gator Bowl, and they played Donovan McNabb, Marvin Harrison, and a really good, one of the best Syracuse teams, in my opinion, they ever had, even though their record was not as good as years to come, a few years to come. They had lost 41-0. I think it was 41-0 in the Gator Bowl. They open up at the University of North Carolina with Leon Johnson, Chris Keldorf, L.C. Stevenson, Brian Simmons was on the defensive line. And I think that they lost. They got blanked. They got the crap beat out of them. So now you have, obviously, one's a bowl game, and then the next year is the first game of the season. Clemson just gets demolished. And then their second game of the year is Furman, and Furman's there. And I remember one of the goofy Clemson fans, Clemson finally scored a touchdown. They hadn't scored an offensive touchdown in forever, going back to the year before, to the previous season. And I remember this goofy kid. I'm sorry, he was just goofy. He looked up, he said, "We just scored for the first time in almost 12 quarters." That was probably the last time I saw football this uninspired, just lazy, could care less. It's kind of like you run into a person who once had a lot of zeal, had a lot of drive. They used to take care of themselves. They used to have goals and everything. And now you run into them, their hair's disheveled. They reek of butt cheese. They have cheese puff pus too, but cheese puff dust all over their shirt, and they've gained a bunch of weight, not because they're sick, but because they gave up. That's how this seemed like today. And Clemson goes into halftime. They come out and they look totally different, and you saw it. I saw it. Anyone who was in that stadium, anyone who even knows football, has watched football for 15 minutes, knew something was different. And what I want to highlight here, I want to highlight that Garrett Riley's offense changed in the second half, mainly in the third quarter. It started becoming more blah as it looked like they were going to win the game. I don't want to, exaggerate that the offense was just so much better in the second half. It was really the third quarter. Really, the third quarter. You saw tempo. You saw Cade and Adam Randall shift. Adam Randall took the direct snap. Saw a beautiful touchdown pass from Cade to Wesco. Saw an even better beautiful pass over the shoulder to Wesco. That was his second touchdown. Wesco had a really good game. TJ Moore, I think he had one reception for 1 yard. I'm worried about him. That's not good for his business. And football is a business. And it's just making me wonder there. And then after that, it's just like Clemson went back to, well, we're going to win this game. Let's just try to get out of this healthy. The defense did look better in the second half. And I'm going to tell you, my new favorite player for Clemson, my new favorite player is Ronan Hannafin. He showed out last week against LSU. He showed out this week. He's one of the main reasons that Clemson really started turning the corner in this game. Obviously, Hampton with that ridiculous interception where the ball popped off someone. Way to keep your mind in the game and get the interception. But folks, I'm just telling you right now, after seeing the third quarter, it lets me know that there's a lot more that Clemson can do that for some reason, folks, they're not doing it. And I had someone send me a comment yesterday, as you can imagine. Send me a comment that basically said, look, we're sitting here questioning all these smart men that coach on Clemson's football team. In fact, I need to find the comment. It was from yesterday sometime. And basically, and I've had this said to me before, and it's totally fine. I'm not saying this about this person. I'm just saying this about other comments I've received in the past. And I really mean that. That basically let smart people do their thing and us keep our mouth shut. And, I responded to this particular comment. The idea behind it was that these are really smart men that are coaching this Clemson football team, and they would not just make bad decisions. And my response to them, and I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I have to respond. I have to respond to this comment, and I'm responding here to you right now, because if you watch that game, you know what I'm about to say. It's going to start to click with you. Have you ever worked like just in the world in general? Probably so. I've worked for massive companies. I've worked for startups. I have sat with people who are brilliant. I've sat with people who have accomplished a lot. And I've also seen some of those very same people who are paid a lot of money to be smart make some of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen in my entire life. They were presented with the alternatives. They didn't want to hear about the alternatives. It was their way or the highway. And trust me, they'd put you on the highway with their foot in your butt. And then they would run it into the ground. I've seen this happen more times than not. So here's what I'm trying to say here. Just because you have men making hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars to coach Clemson, does not mean that they are it doesn't mean that they are a Clemson, that they should be coaching for Clemson. I'm just going to say it. I was talking to my buddy Chase Henderson, and I have the comment section turned off here. I'm going to turn it on for just a moment. Chase may be in here. I don't know. I've got a bunch of you in here. Let me see. Is Chase in here? I thought I saw him. No, I didn't. I'm turning the comment section back off because I can't pay attention. But Chase and I were talking, and I told him, I said, it's kind of like a doctor. There are people who are really intelligent. They're really good at studying medicine, but they're terrible with people, and they really don't care about helping people. And though they're brilliant, they're not cut out to be a doctor. Yeah, they graduated med school and blah, 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 blah. They're not cut out to be a doctor. They could care less about helping people. They are just really, really intelligent. They can regurgitate this stuff. They graduated, they did their residency, now they're a doctor, and everybody sees them as Dr. Fill in the blank, but they're not a good they're not a physician. They're not helping anyone. And so I just want to be very, very careful that we don't look at someone and go, well, hold on, they have this outrageously well-paying job, and they used to play the game, and they've been around the game for a very, very long time. Folks, that still does not mean that they are making the best decisions for Clemson. period. And when you watch that third quarter, offensively, the scheme, it was like someone else was calling offense. It was. Some of my buddies texted me during the game. In fact, it was Parker and Chase. They texted me, and I can't remember which one of them said what, and about the play calling and it changing, and I said, yeah, I'm the one calling the plays right now. I was just being facetious. Clemson started to stretch the field. We saw a little bit of misdirection. We saw up tempo. And then they stopped, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that they stopped. It was just like, okay, enough of this production. We need to stop this. We need to stop this. And folks, I'm also going to tell you this. I don't know who if the idea is we don't want to show our playbook, bro, that excuse has got so much traction in the Clemson community, and it's not. It's. I mean, when are we waiting to show it? You would have to show it against LSU. LSU is arguably the toughest team you're going to play in this entire regular season. Now, say Florida State. And LSU still has to prove themselves. But with that said, all these excuses of why the offense is not this or why the offense is not that, I mean, y'all, if y'all want to keep buying that, y'all go for it. You're your own person. I can't come over there and make you open your eyes and accept it. You listen, take the 5 to 10 years for it to finally click with you that something's not right. You just don't go up tempo all of a sudden, start calling almost totally different styles, different just approach to the game. All of a sudden you're up like that. You were down. You couldn't even sneeze forward that good. And all of a sudden you're scoring touchdowns at will. You're ripping off yardage at will. And then you just stop. Tell me y'all are smarter than that, aren't you? Please tell me you're smarter than that. Please don't tell me that you're going to go sit and listen to some press conference and you're just so easily swayed. Please don't tell me that. You're smarter than that. You have to be smarter than that. Because it happened right before our eyes. I was sitting there, I watched it. It was also like someone threatened somebody. It was almost like someone went, listen, last week we can play off of LSU and SEC and big game, first game of the year. There's a lot of pressure, yada, 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 which now Clemson's running from pressure. Clemson's running from pressure. Clemson's running from the big game. They don't want it. They have a really good excuse why they can't win the big game anymore, but they still want to be considered a premier brand in college football. You can't have your cake and eat it too, folks. You can't. And so I'm sitting here watching this new offense unfold before my eyes, and then it goes away. Again, the players in the first half on both sides of the football looked like someone just told them their favorite person was just unalived. And so did the coaches. Most of them look, now we're back here again. Can I just get my paycheck and go home? Can I just get my $500,000, my $750,000, my $2 million and just go home? I don't feel like doing this anymore. It's too much pressure. People expect too much out of you. Meanwhile, you have some guy, a family of 4, who couldn't, it cost them a lot to come to even to a Troy game and go to the concession stand. And if they don't perform well at their job and they're paid a lot less, I mean, just minuscule. And yes, I bring this up all the time because we need to. We need to bring it up. You need to get your mind out of that place that for some reason you can pay bukus of money to someone and they can pick and choose when the game plan is going to be productive, and then when it's just like, I don't want to show the playbook. Meanwhile, the guy sitting across from you, he probably makes $60,000 a year and he's really good at his job, and they'll fire him like that. But we all supposed to take up for or not question. That's what I'm trying to say. The game plan of someone who is paid millions to coach a game, and they pick and choose when they want to go aggressive and when it's just like, okay, we're calling it off. Maybe they don't realize it. Again, I'm not calling for anyone's head here. I'm just saying, for some of y'all out there, I wonder about y'all. I really wonder about your ability to judge certain things. Now, I want to talk about a statement that I made. We're here 21 minutes in. A statement, in fact, a video I did called Clemson has 1,000 yards against Troy. Some of y'all mistook what I was trying to say there. What the point I was trying to sarcastically make is that a game like today would be the game we'd open up the offensive playbook because, well, we've done that before. In the game, you don't have to open up the offensive playbook. That's when we do it. The games like, I don't know, last week, 7 days ago, when you need to open up the playbook, you need to call your best plays, you need to prove that you can out-scheme anyone in the country, that's when we go conservative. That was the point of that video. The point was not to make fun of Troy. The point was to call out what we're seeing with especially the offensive scheme. And I'm going to even tell you, in the first half, y'all know I've been a Tom Allen fan and so on. First half, defense looked bad. They really looked bad. That bomb down the sideline for a touchdown, that crap can't be happening. I mean, that was just bad. Take bad and go worse. That's what it was. So, you know, I enjoyed spending time with my nephew today. We had an incredible time. He's a really good boy, and happy birthday to you, buddy. Tomorrow is when he turns 13. So I spent his last day of being 12 was spent with me and us sitting and watching that game. And it was funny. We were also, I had my phone out. We were keeping up with the South Florida and Florida score. And that was interesting. But I'm telling you, folks, and I've said this, I don't want anyone fired. I just want them to admit that they are picking and choosing when they open up the offense, and that until they opened it up, it was not working. And I don't know why someone would want to run from success. You know, I don't know why someone would want to run from success. I'm being honest. There were so many people yelling and booing. I mean, these guys aren't deaf. I mean, yeah, they're down there on the field, but they can hear it. They can hear it. They're not deaf. And you know what? You won't have to grow thick skin of criticism if you'll just open up the playbook. You know, sometimes you have to have thick skin and persevere through criticism that is unjust. But if you actually could change some actions and you were having a different result, you wouldn't be receiving criticism. You'd be receiving praise, and justly so. So I'm just sitting here. I don't know what's going on at Clemson. I don't. The players are not bad. I'm serious. When they decided we're just gonna go up tempo and we'll start throwing the ball down the field, run some different plays, totally look different than the first half. Man, they were scoring at will. Troy's like, holy crap! I thought we had them on the ropes. Yeah, you did, because they decided we're just going to protect this golden. There must be some golden plays that if it gets out, it's going to turn the college football world upside down. And they just can't have it. It's just too much power if Clemson unveils these plays that they are like holding back, because that's one of the excuses that I've heard. And so I've heard it from fans, a lot of fans. I guess some of y'all are trying to cope and try to figure out what's happening. Yeah, me too. And you should be. But Clemson turned it on long enough to quickly take the lead, to quickly impose their will on Troy, and then they shut it back down again. That game, they could have put another 2 scores on there, and the game wouldn't have even remotely looked close. They were moving the ball at will, and then they stopped. If you were there, you saw it. If you were paying attention on TV, you saw it. You can't unsee what you just saw. So, getting to the comments section, there's 186 of you here. It's at midnight. It's technically Sunday morning now. I just got back in. I was at the game all day. It was pretty much an all-day event because of the bad weather and so on. Had a really good time with my nephew. Had a really good time, even though the football in the first half was really lackluster, and really the fourth quarter on the offensive side was really lackluster. It's good to be in the Valley. Going to get into the comments section, say hello to a bunch of people. I'm probably going to miss some of you. Please forgive me. Mr. Brand BB, been waiting on this all night, so that if we run up 1,000 yards on Troy, this wasn't a worry. Yeah. Going back to that, the whole idea behind that video was to point out that we open up the playbook when we don't have to. And that was the whole sarcastic approach to it. So, trust me, I definitely get how some people could take that the wrong way. That's not what I was meaning. And by the way, in the third quarter, they did do that. It's like, we're just going to start playing. We're going to start playing. And then they just started annihilating Troy. Suddenly, a 13-point deficit was totally gone, and Clemson was firmly in control of the game. Graf Narmo, buddy, good to see you in here. Old supporter of the channel. It's good to see you, my man. Philip Brister, yes, I said Trojan something. You said the Troy, and you said Trojans. You're right, my friend. Let's straight to it. Hey, listen, here's the thing. I don't think we do. I think something's going on in the coaching. Because once the leash was taken off the dog, it was nuts. Happy birthday. Yes, absolutely. Happy birthday to my buddy. Let me see. Taters are down bad. Could be Florida. Yeah, that was interesting. Y'all should have listened to me years ago. Get rid of Dabo and promote Venables. No, I don't know. I don't know about that, but I would tell you this SEC dog, and I'm glad he's in here. He's one of my favorite pot stirrers. SEC dog's fun. Something in the coaching staff is not right. Dabo Swinney's not a dumb man. Whatever is going on doesn't make sense. Again, the third quarter, folks, all you have to do is go watch the third quarter offensively. And I don't watch Neff all the time, our athletic director, but he came and he stood down there. Maybe he stands down there every game and I miss it. He did not look happy. He came out at halftime and he was standing on the sidelines. He looked like... Have you ever looked at someone and you can tell that they're trying, they have a lot on their mind, and it's probably not good? That's how he looked. He wasn't scowling and looking like, he was throwing lightning bolts or anything towards Swinney, but he looked miserable. Motivated, dedicated, no fire, passion, or energy. I hate to say it, but yeah, good to see you in here. Oh, my old buddy, My old buddy, what up? Lightning delays, rain delays. That's what was up. And then watching an offense that it just it was just crazy. Could see how Dabo threatened the whole staff during halftime to tighten up, or y'all are gone. Benjamin Bowen, I even joked to him. I made a joke to my nephew that it looked like someone had been threatened. If you were there, especially if you were there in the stadium, you could sense it. Something was different. Like, I mean, both sides of the ball. I'm just upset that I didn't get to see Vizina this game. Losses don't really scare me anymore. I just want to see what we have for next season. He came in on one play. It was a very weird one. Games like this, Clemson should jump out in front by about 4 touchdowns and then bring in Vizina so he can get more time. I've said this about Cade. Cade was one of the most ill-prepared quarterbacks in probably the past 10 to 12 years of the Dabo Swinney era, because they were not putting games away to where Cade could come out behind DJ and get experience. Well, we saw how that worked out. Same thing with Vizina. Vizina is going to come in next year probably and be the man. And everybody's going to be, he's been in the program for a long time. How does he make, he's going to make some mistakes and everybody's going to be scratching their head. I tell you why, because he hasn't been seeing real game time against players who are not his teammates. And games like today, Clemson should jump out by 30 points. Hey, I don't know if y'all heard this or not, but Florida State ran up like 70 or 80 or almost 80 points on a teeny tiny team. They're not worried about the playbook being exposed. They're getting people experience. There's a bunch of teams today who did the very same thing. And we used to do that at Clemson. We don't do that anymore. We don't. And again, the third quarter tells us that we actually can do it. We're just turning it off and on, and more times than not, we're keeping it off. It doesn't make sense to me. When you get paid beforehand, this is what you get: $11 million for a coach. Not sure how much for the rest of these idiots. TPC, good to see you, my man. Good to see you, my buddy. Just going through here. Just an uninspiring program right now. Can't beat good teams, and you're supposed to be excited about sweating out a win over Troy. Yeah, Stephen P. The culture that Swinney did build. Swinney built it. There's no argument. I'm not arguing whatsoever about that. Best is the standard. You know, there's a bell in their weight room that they ring, and right above it's a sign that says best is the standard. And I'm sitting there going, is this just a slogan now? I mean, really? It sure does seem like it. Tiger Nate. Oh, buddy, Tiger Nate. It's good to see you. The Roaring 20s. Let me see. Going through here. Nah, man, the start of Tommy Bowden's last season, 3 or 4 games, that, my friend, was pathetic and hard to watch. That was pretty bad. That was pretty bad. How did Troy get up to 16 points? I thought Clemson was better than that. Klubnik equals Archie Jr. Ryan, I'm just going to tell you, bud, offensive play calling in the third quarter, the first and second quarter, it looked like a totally different human being was calling it than the third quarter. And then that person who took over in the third quarter stopped somewhere in the fourth quarter, and it went back to the person that was calling the plays in first and second quarter. I'm telling you, it's that this when I say scares me, it's not like really scare me. Okay, football at the end of the day is nothing. Clemson, though we enjoy it, nothing. For the people who's coaching and the people who are playing, it's their life, and I respect that. But for us, In the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. With that baseline said, nothing is making sense right now. Nothing is making sense. It really doesn't. And if you can't win with the players that you have right now, wait till next year when a bunch of them are gone. Then you're really going to be up crap creek. But Ryan Mitchell, that's one way I could say that. I'm not complaining, anyone. We are average. Don't blame you. Mr. Cromer says number 5 and number 8, the only players on defense, in my opinion. We had some good moments. Will Helt had some really good moments. Sammy Brown had some good, solid tackles. But Ronan Hannafin is having an outrageous season right now. He's one of the bright spots. To me, he is to this season so far what Khalil Barnes was to the 23 season. And Ronan Hannafin is just everywhere. 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 I mean, he's just, my guy, looking good. Going on down. Maybe these returning players for Clemson weren't so great after all. Clemson hasn't shown me anything really. I see a 5-loss season staring them in the face. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, Silver Fox. On the other hand, go back to the third quarter tonight. All of a sudden, we started running tempo. We started calling different plays. We scored at will, and then all of a sudden, we turned it off like a faucet. Not even a little drip left. It was just like, Don't kill me, I'm a vibe. We're horrible. Keep going on down. Joe Hughes, I was greatly disappointed. Yeah, me too. Me too. It just looks like they don't want to be there. I think that, I'm going to say this to you, Joe Hughes, but I'm saying this to everyone. I'm saying it to myself. Every college football team, no matter the size or history in this country, okay, no matter their size, whether they have a tradition of winning or not, no matter if they're a small team, big team, whatever, they all have inspirational sayings, every one of them. They have messages that they preach to their team, and they try to motivate them with that. Clemson is no different than any other team in the country in doing that. A lot of coaches has their motivational sayings. They have their this, they have their that. They have to try to remind people what the goal is. They have to remind their team the principles and the guidelines and all this bunch of good stuff. And I get it. It can be very effective. But it is really difficult, Joe Hughes and anyone else who's listening to me, to try to pour those ideas consistently in the minds of these guys who are smart. They're not dummies. It's very difficult to pour all of these sayings and that we are Clemson and that we are the best, best is the standard and all that bunch of stuff. And you've now lost 3 consecutive season openers. Until today, you were 0-2, and the last 2 times you played in Death Valley. Last week, and then the last game of last season, you lost. My memory serves me correct, the last 2 night games that Clemson has played, Clemson used to never lose at night. The last time, up until last year when they lost to Louisville, Clemson had not lost at night since 2013. Well, guess what? Last week they lost at night, and last year they lost at night. So the last 2 night games, if my memory serves me correct, and today I know it went into the night, but today was not a night game. The last 2 night games they've had, they lost. It is hard to get guys to buy into slogans and into inspirational quotes when the results are not there. And then when the coaching seems to be turning on and turning off of when they want to coach. When they, or I say coach, when they want to be aggressive and when they don't want to be aggressive. Folks, you can't do that to people and expect them to truly buy in, to be all in. You can't do that. And it just, it's very disappointing. I agree with you. Brad, I ran here to see your reaction, LOL. I knew you were thinking like me. They better be glad they pulled this one out. All the other teams, except LSU, had scores like 70-0, 70-7. Yeah, they sure did. Did y'all see what happened to Oklahoma State today? Oregon was like a 28.5-point favorite. Oregon beat them like, let me look at the score. Oregon beat them like 70-7 or something. 69-3. Sorry. 69-3. Yeah, Oregon beat Gundy 69-3. I mean, there was a bunch of blowouts today. Ohio State played Grambling, beat them 70-0. UGA beat, well, that wasn't one of those scores. Texas Tech beat Kent 62-14. Indiana beat Kennesaw State 56-9. Let me see. I'm going through here. Florida State beat East Texas A&M 77-3. Penn State beat FIU 34-0. I mean, there was a lot of blowouts. Tennessee, beat ETSU 72-17. Utah beat Cal Poly 63-9. Miami beat Bethune-Cookman 45-3. LSU, yeah, they only beat La Tech 23-7. Alabama beat University of Louisiana Monroe 73-0. And you sit here and you listen to that, and then you look at Clemson beating, and Troy's not a bad team, but they're not a good team. They shouldn't even been within 14 points of Clemson, much less winning 16-3 at halftime. It just doesn't make sense. Woogie man, Riley should be going even if Clemson wins the chip. Let me tell you, dude, a lot of people are not happy with him right now. Again, I'm not calling for his head. I'm calling for him to accept that how things have been going is not working. What he was doing in the third quarter, do that the entire game. Clemson won this game. Clemson even being down 16-3, if they would have kept that up in the second half, or throughout the entire second half, I will guarantee you Clemson would have scored 40-plus points. And it would have looked more commanding and blah, 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 blah. Nope. Something is up, y'all. Something is up. Dabo took over for about 15 minutes. Riley plays scared, like a guy who is not confident. Thomas Brazil, it's 100% they don't want to show the playbook because they think they're going to the playoff every year regardless of who they play. Yes, I believe Dabo is that delusional. I hope not. But that, I keep hearing about this protecting the playbook from the fans and so on. And maybe people are just trying to figure out some stuff. We won't win the ACC either. The transfer portal has equaled the playing field. The trucking mogul, I really don't, just being honest with you, I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. This is coaching. This is coaching. This is major league coaching. Today, I'm telling you, that third quarter said a lot. Every Clemson fan should be sitting there going, whoa, 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 what? What happened there? What happened there? And then why did we revert back in the fourth to what we were doing in the first and the second quarter, basically? People aren't stupid. People can choose to be naive, but people don't. A lot of people aren't stupid. Keith said, you were exactly right about LSU being overrated. LSU's O-line got bullied today by La Tech. Yeah. I didn't see it, but I trust you. Let me see. Mr. Antonio and Mrs. Rose said, I call it like I see it also. Yep. I bet you do. I don't blame you. Getting on through here. Brady Roberts says something's going on with CJ. Tonight I got to shake Adam Randall's hand, and Adam Randall's a big dude. I'm telling you. When you consider he's a running back and then have like Ezzy Omame or Ezzy Amume or one of the other guys walk past you, yeah, they're athletic, they're playing at this level. But Adam Randall's really big for a running back. I mean, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. It just doesn't make sense to me why Davidson and Ezzy Amume and Keith Adams Jr. is not playing more. And I'm not trying to take away from Adam Randall. I mean, Adam Randall today had 21 carries, 112 yards, and one touchdown. I'm not trying to take away from it. It just does not make – it goes back to what I said about getting Vizino ready. No one is getting reps. No one else. And those no ones that's getting reps will be somebody next year who's going to have to learn on the job. And I just don't think it's going to turn out for everyone, turn out well. Like a lot of people thinks. Tim Russell says that's a very big statement, Tim, and you're 100% right. Clemson played less than one half of decent football today. Still have not beaten a ranked team. Talk to me then. Fair enough, Tim. You know, if anyone watches my channel, you know I have much more of that mindset than anything else. Mike Roberts said, great second half Tigers. Troy's not a cupcake. Bad first half, but great character play in the second half. Why are we so afraid to give underclassmen a try? We have a barn of running backs. Do we run 8 until he breaks like Maffa did last year? Good question. Good flipping question. We're not rotating anyone. I've also been blown away by how much lack of motion, like pre-snap motion that we're running. We're seeing very little. Normally, or used to, we'd have a slot receiver. My hair's all messed up. I can see it. Sorry. It's been in the rain and in a hat and all this bunch of crap. So it looks ridiculous. I need to go to bed too, but probably you do as well. But hey, if you're in here, as 200 of you in here, thanks for sticking with me tonight. No, today was a tough game. Clemson wins. Glad I didn't get upset. That was really, really good. But if you're as confused as I am and as frustrated as I am, because I don't believe that our coaching staff is dumb. Something weird's going on, y'all. You can't tell me that those men who's been around the game that long does not realize that there was a different offensive game plan in the third quarter, period. You can't tell me that. And even Tom Allen, yes, Tom Allen, someone that I believe is a really good coach, something changed in the second half. Now, that's the good thing. He did make the adjustment. That's a good thing. With that said, it was bothersome. But yeah, the offense, I'm just saying. Living in Greenville, South Carolina. Good to see you in here, my buddy. What's going to happen next year if a high-ranked recruit deciding if you're going to come to Clemson? A lot of people don't want to answer that question. A lot of people don't want to think about that question. Here's what people in Clemson wants to do when that comes up. Well, if they care about all of this, talking about the stadium, the fans, the everything, the culture and everything, Folks, we need to stop drinking the Kool-Aid so much. This is a business decision for a lot of these guys, and they will make a lot of money. And if they are like TJ Moore tonight, who last year had an incredible season, and then tonight he had 1 reception for 1 yard, he's going to hit the transfer portal. He's going to go to a really good team. They're going to use him, and it will be good for his personal business. And if you get mad about that and call him, well, he was never really a Tiger anyway, that's just business, folks. Sorry. He's not still killing and destroying anyone to make his money. He is a football player, and the ball has to get to him somehow, and plays have to be called to give him the ability to do what, well, we saw he did last year. So if big-time recruits are looking at Gideon Davidson going, why is he sitting there? No, what? Why is it that Jeremiah Alexander, who is not a youngin in college football, he's experienced. Why did they praise him like crazy and he barely plays? I thought they said this was the hardest working guy they've ever seen in their entire life, and that he's talented and that he's unbelievable and he looks good. Why is he not playing? It's a heck of a question. I'm scrolling on through. I know I'm missing some things. Y'all please forgive me. Red said, hey, Clemson barely beat Troy in 2016. I agree with you there. I brought that up the other day. I get that 100%. There's something different about this team. And I'm talking about Clemson. It just doesn't seem right. Oh, let me see. Stephen P. says Brandon Streeter is laughing. Kane says if Clemson plays next week the way they played today, GT will beat them. Yep. Well, I wished I could be as insightful as Brian. Knows what the coaches think and feel. I really don't know what they think or feel. I know what I think, and I know what the people booing around me think, and I know what it's like to have a ton of talent, returning talent. Clemson has a lot of talent, and a lot of this coaching staff can't get it to work. They can't. And it doesn't make sense. But hey, teach their own. Let me see. David Lusk said we were nearly 0-2 for the first time since 1975. It was close. This is really good. I would say the gentleman from Spartanburg that was lambasted by Dabo for calling him out has been vindicated. I would say that Tyler from Spartanburg may be sending in a text very soon. Here's the thing about Tyler from Spartanburg. A lot of people didn't like the sound of his voice. And that's the thing. People didn't like the sound of his voice. It's like, who is he to tell the truth? 2 years ago, he told the truth. And right after that, Clemson beat Notre Dame. The last time they beat a top 10 team. And before that, it was years before they had beat a top 10 team. So say what you will about his voice and the way he said it, and he could have said it different, and he sounded salty, and all these other weird little words we like to throw around and think we're cute. Tyler from Spartanburg said a lot of things that were right. And I appreciate Coach Sweeney, but Coach Sweeney is still a man. Coach Sweeney can make mistakes, and sometimes mistakes that people can make is that they don't want to see that we're firing a coach every year, folks. Do you not realize that? I said this to someone. In fact, I saw my cousin at the football game today, and during the rain delay, um, we got to talk for a little bit. He was sitting in another section and ended up calling. I was like, "Hey, man, I know he had sent me a picture that he was there," and I was like, "Dude, I'm here too." And so we ended up meeting. We chatted for a moment, and we were just talking about the team. And I said, you know, firing someone every year probably is not a good look or good for culture. Go ahead and make the changes that you need to make. And then, you know, people aren't having to sit there and kind of, you know, wring their wring their hands going, am I next? Also, you're wasting eligibility. You're wasting eligibility by waiting to make a change every year versus just you go ahead and you realize you've been around this game long enough. You know that guy's not going to pan out. You know that guy right there is not going to pan out. That one over there. So instead of firing one per year and having this sense of it, somebody's going, and then on top of that, you're wasting eligibility. How about you just go ahead and let go of who you have to let go of, and then go make a bunch of top notch hires in their place, and your life will become easier. It just does not make sense. Let me see. Garrett Riley must have heard that a U-Haul truck was at his place fixing to move his stuff, so that's when he decided to open up. That I'm telling you, man, something happened. I don't know. Running game has no pop. The runs that stand out are the few that appear to be running angry. Yeah. Star Court, Food Court, one of those games I couldn't even get mad. I just shook my head and laughed. You couldn't make up the first half. Dude, oh my goodness. When they went when Clemson went down 16-3, I just busted out laughing. Because it's just like it was so bad it was funny. It was goofy. And you could look at the players on the sideline, they'd come to the sideline. I mean, serious. Serious. It was so bad, it was actually hysterical. Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. Oh, there we are. There he is. Chase Henderson. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Good to see you. Who else in here? Worst I've seen Clemson play in my lifetime, actually. Chase Henderson, you know what? Boom. Boom. Yes, I'm not sure who was calling plays in the third quarter, but that is who needs to call the plays from now on. See, he sees it. Something happened, y'all. I'm telling you, something happened in that third quarter. And if you're paying attention, you go, whoa, 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 what happened there? And why did it go away? Because it went away. It wasn't there in the first or second quarter. It showed up in the third quarter. Clemson, you could tell Troy was looking at one another. The players was like, whoa, 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 what just happened? What just happened? We were brutalizing them. We made them look like lackeys. And now they're up on us? How did that happen? We can't stop anything. And then offensively, it went away. It was just like, oh, we got a little lead. It's about to stop trying 30. Okay. Chase notices it. A lot of you notice it. You need to be asking that question why. And let me tell you this. I'm not asking questions for someone to explain to me, give me some answer to enlighten me. No, there's no good response other than that should be our offense all the time. That's it. Oh, man. Yeah. Let me see. Going down. I've been kind of Dabo the last 5 years, but maybe time to move on. We may suffer a few more seasons, but we can't keep doing this. I see your frustration there. I don't. Just get the guy whoever was calling third quarter, let them call the offense, and things will be in a good place. Clemson will be in a good place. Benjamin Bowen, I legit think we need to find new coordinators for at least the offense, running back, and probably wide receiver. We have a lot of questions here, folks. There is like Greyhound said 100%. I saw that too. They were in shock. David Wood says the third quarter showed exactly how good we are. It's a lot of interesting thoughts in here. Folks, I didn't mean for this video to go this long. I got to get up at, well, not too long from now. But here's what I want to say. I want to give a closing thought. There's 229 of you in here. I hope there's 229 thumbs up. Okay? And I hope you've subscribed. It is free. If you like what I'm doing, you wouldn't if you didn't like what I'm doing, you probably wouldn't show up. The vast majority of you wouldn't. So if you haven't subscribed, please do that. It helps my channel. All right? And it's free. Free. Did you hear that? And in a world full of inflation and high cost, it is free. So I hope you'll do that. And the next thing I'll ask you, please pass it along to your friends who love Clemson, who loves talking college football. And then check out my other channel, Another College Football Podcast. The link is below there. By the way, I said that I could see South Florida beating Florida. And I also said, hey, it's possible Mississippi State could actually beat Arizona State. They both happened today. I didn't guarantee it. I'm not going to tell you that I did, but I did say that. And it's on recording yesterday on my me talking about college football yesterday on my other channel. Here's what I want to close with. If the team that showed up in the third quarter showed up the rest of the season, this season will be fine. National championship? Can't say that at all. But it would be fine. The problem is that we now have 2 years with Garrett Riley, and the offense has just been off. The offense maybe was a little better than Brandon Streeter, but it hadn't been much better. And so if you, in a 2-year period, the 2 prior seasons, by the way, if the offensive game plan with all the pieces that you do legitimately have in place, and then today in the third quarter showed us that all you have to do is decide to just rip a new one for the other team. You just decide to. You have to ask yourself, why? Why would you believe that after 2 years of this, that suddenly Garrett is just going to, or whoever's influencing the offensive play calling, that why would it change now? You had a massive game last week with the eyes of the country on you. Herb Street and Fowler were up in the booth. Everybody's paying attention to it. That didn't matter. Last year, in your very first game was against Georgia. You go back to those really interesting games of Georgia and Clemson in the 80s and the whole Herschel Walker and then the Danny Ford led Clemson teams. And it's just, I mean, there's such nostalgia there. That didn't matter. Didn't matter offensively against Louisville last year. Didn't matter really against South Carolina if you go back and look at that game. So why would it change the rest of this season? Why would you go from exploding in the third quarter, elevating your team from pure mediocrity, and being mediocre was even being kind to say that about Clemson's offensive performance in the first and second quarters. I mean, that's very, very generous. And then in the third quarter, all of a sudden you have this explosion and then you pull it back in. Folks, I'm sorry. Fool me once. It's on you. Fool me twice. Fool me a third time. I'm just gullible. And so I just don't see this. I have given whatever's going on with the offense, I've given it the benefit of the doubt. But I told you in the preseason, I told you all summer when I was talking about the high expectations for Clemson, what did I say? You can go back and watch the videos. You can go listen to the receipts yourself. I told you that if Clemson's offensive scheme was conservative, it would undermine everything. I told you that. I was honest with you. I was honest with you about my expectations for the team, but I also was honest about their play calling offensively. I went on TJ's show, College Football Addiction. I was honest there. I went on another college, or I went on the College Huddle. I was honest there. Anything that could undermine this season, I said, offensive scheme. This is season number 3, folks. I don't know what we're waiting on. I don't know what we're waiting on. Just being honest. Don't know. Don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. There. Y'all take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers.